Wow, magic.
Movie magic. Parasite. This is my roommate Daniel. I'm Bass. Welcome to the first video. And today we're gonna be reviewing Parasite. Thanks to one of you viewers who recommended it, and we watched it yesterday. So Daniel, you tell me, what do you think of the movie?
I mean, I walked in from work. What are you watching? He's like, it's Parasite. And I was like, oh, frick. I've heard this name before. I should watch it.
It was like 7 minutes in, so
yeah.
it wasn't that late.
She was smoking her cigarette, and they're like, dang, she should go to art school, basically, when I walked in. But it was impressive. It was beautiful. I laughed. I cried. It was moving. Not actually cry. I didn't cry, right? I don't think
I don't think anything
No,
was
I don't think there was any tears, but...
There was laughter.
I laughed so much.
Yes.
And also, yes, the nervous shakes because... Yes. Good characters, beautiful shots. The music, I like music. The music was incredible and symphonic, and oh my gosh, it was so good.
So, in case you guys haven't seen the movie, it's about this very poor family, the Kim family, who are struggling to survive. They live in a basement, and then the son, he gets hired to tutor English to this very rich family in an incredible house. And then he makes the people hire his sister as an art teacher, and then the entire family just starts scamming them so they get hired by the rich family.
Yeah.
So their dad becomes the driver, and then the mom becomes the housekeeper. But the way they get these jobs are through, I don't know how to, like...
I mean, yeah.
They basically made other people lose their jobs so they could get these jobs. Which, I mean, if you're in a very poor state of life, you would do anything to survive. Yeah. And that's where kind of the name Parasite comes from, because I guess at first glance, if you don't really think about it, the Kim family are just kind of like parasites because they came into this rich people life, and then they're trying to take every single thing that they can.
Yeah. I think the one line that, because you asked me after the movie was over, like, why is it called Parasite? What's the and I had been thinking about that the whole time, and the one line that kind of like stuck it in for me was that I was trying to figure out until the end of the movie was when they're sitting all together in their kitchen, they're eating, they're having a meal, the Kim family was, and they commented on the amount of money coming out of the rich household into theirs if they were to combine all their sums. Like, it was a crazy amount, and I was like, yeah, they're the parasites. But then I spent the whole movie trying to think, is that a good thing, is that a bad thing? But definitely something between the two relationships of the family was meant to imply parasitic relationships.
Yes, but I also think it's also for us to think, actually nobody's a parasite. They're all people.
Yeah.
They come from different worlds, and I guess we should try to see them in a way as they can live together. And for a while the movie kind of does depict that, and then at the end it just completely falls apart by the rich family just basically saying, no, we can't live together, this is our lives, just kind of latching onto it. But it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, just a wee bit. But
so I want to talk right now, before we go even deeper into that, about the spectacular writing on, I guess, the timing of the movie, because it was very anxious. Like, this particular scene where the Kim family is, like, I guess, not really house sitting the rich family, because the rich family didn't know everybody was living there, but the rich family's coming back, and everybody starts to panic. Everybody tries to reorganize themselves. The old housekeeper comes back in because she has a secret in the house, and I guess the way they started building up slowly, that, like, first the housekeeper comes back. We found this huge secret that she allows her husband to live in the basement of the house, and then they start getting into a fight because the old housekeeper discovers that the Kim family is actually just basically scammers. So we have that conflict that it's huge. And then the rich family says, by the way, we're coming back right now. You guys have like 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Yep.
And from a conflict that was already very high, they just take us to 1,000%, which I think other movies might try to like elevate anxious moments and then they fail. But I think this one,
100%.
they both kept us on our toes.
Yeah, well, whenever I watch movies, I'm always like watching for the foreshadowing. What statements are they making that you're like, this is coming, you know it's coming, because the rich family was gone, they were out camping, the house is left to the Kim family, they're sitting there, they're saying, look how cozy we feel, it feels like we're home, this is so natural. And then the mom says that one line, but when they come, do you feel cozy right now? You know, when they come back and they turn on the lights, just like cockroaches, they'll all scatter. And I think it was playing again off of that whole like pest, insect, the cockroaches will scatter, the light will be turned on, you'll run away. And they kind of laugh and joke about it. But from the second she said that, I'm like,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. They're going to come back. But that's like 10 minutes before even the housekeeper shows up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that long, but it feels like 10 minutes before the housekeeper shows up. And then when that shows up, you're like, oh, this is raising the bar. It's even higher stress. And then it's like another 10 minutes, if not 15, before you get a call from the parents saying 8 minutes. So it's like such a long stretch that they carried you through that like uncertainty. It was incredible.
And as soon as the call gets here, everybody, just like cockroaches, starts running. They start cleaning up their mess, so there's nothing there, and then they end up hiding under the table like a cockroach would do normally. And then they have to just wait there until they kind of like leave the room.
Yep.
But it's exactly perfect foreshadowing, like, oh, just like cockroaches, and then they ended up being the cockroaches.
But the fact that they just started with that one sentence and kept everything normal, they just gave you the seed of uncertainty.
That's true.
They didn't have to start with anxious music. They didn't have to start with they just started with a sentence, and you knew if you're paying attention, you could kind of like gauge that something's gonna happen. And so the fact that they start with a sentence, and then they add the conflict of the two parties. Now, like, there's two different people in this space that don't belong. So now they're adding this relational thing that you're trying to figure out. And then that starts to elevate. And then you kind of had forgotten about the original conflict that you were concerned about, the big family coming back. And then you add that to the mix. And suddenly you're at this full force, like 8 minute, the climax of everything, you know, then slowly weaving the music all into... So good. So
like
good.
It's a lot, but it felt like it developed organically, and it made sense to the story, and it made sense to each character. It made sense to the house, because I feel like the house in itself is kind of like a character.
100%.
At first, when the movie first ended, and I thought, okay, who's the parasite? Who's the host? I thought, okay, maybe the house is the host. Then I thought maybe the rich dad is the host, Mr. Park. And then Mr. Kim and his family are the parasites trying to latch onto the host and then killing them from inside. Because Mr. Park ends up killing... Mr. Kim ends up killing Mr. Park. The parasite ends up killing a host. And then I thought, okay, so the previous housekeeper and her husband who lived in that house, maybe they could be considered as the antibodies. Because they're trying to get rid of...
Interesting.
They're trying to get rid of the Kim family. And when we kind of first meet the husband of the housekeeper who's living in the basement, we see that one of the first things he does is he lights up the trail of stairs every time Mr. Park gets home. And he's like, thank you, Mr. Park, for your house and your food. Because technically Mr. Park is feeding life into the antibody. And when an unknown source comes in, which is the Kim family, like the parasite, he's like, no, get out. This is not good. You're not treating him with the respect that I would do.
Interesting.
So that's what was my initial thought.
Yeah. Well, and that, I think, because you had asked about the house immediately after, like, is the house the host? And I've thought about that more. And I think there's definitely play into that. But I can't get over the fact that, just the imagery and the movement, even in the characters of the housekeeper and her husband, the way that they're living in the guts of the house, the way it's almost more a symbiotic relationship. I think the imagery of the antibodies makes sense, but if we're talking about insects, then a symbiotic where they're living in the gut, but they do things for this host, which would either be the Park family or maybe the house, depending on what you're looking at it. But yeah, when the invaders, the pests, the Kims, the parasites come in, then obviously when you have two different parasites trying to share a host, there's going to be conflict. So the antibodies kind of make sense, but I still feel like there's enough imagery for the housekeeper that it doesn't feel like they belong. Even though they've kind of settled in, they say they feel like they grew up in the guts of the house. They feel like they belong there. They just have this weird movement and energy about them that it's definitely trying to portray a sense of parasitism.
Yeah, so technically they were both parasites.
That's what I kind of came to the conclusion. Yeah.
I like after we discussed it more, we discussed it a while after the movie ended. I kind of thought, oh man, maybe they were all parasites. And of course, two parasites living together, they're not gonna coincide. Even though both were kind of like poor, they both technically lived in a basement. They both struggle, and they both fell of the wellness of the Park family. But for some reason, they couldn't come to agreement with themselves, and then they created conflict. And I think it was very interesting because we see the housekeeper, she gets fired. And then next time we see her, she's knocking on the door and you can tell something's wrong. She's looking red. She's looking like she got beat up. And we actually never get explained what happened. The husband asks, he's like, what happened? And he's like, oh, I'll explain later. But we actually never get an explanation. So I think that's also a signal like she's a parasite. She left the host. And then she was like, I gotta come back in. Because that's the only thing that makes me have a good life. The only thing that makes me feel good. Genius writing right there.
Because they didn't explain it. It was just like the visual and even her emoting, the way she spoke her lines. It was very obvious that there was discomfort, anxiety, there was stress all around being separated from the host. And so when she came back, you saw that it wasn't just out of trying to, retrieve her husband who was in the basement. Another crazy spoiler and weird twist, but the fact that this was the only place that she was receiving life and a source of food and comfort and security and shelter, all those things. So
like when she's ringing the doorbell, one of the first things she says, hi, I was the old housekeeper. On top of the whatever microphone system that you see, on top of that, there's a picture of the three dogs, Fufu, Ralphie, and whatever the dogs' names were. And it's like...
She knows the house. She knows the family. Like, she knows the host. She's so engaged and involved and knows it. That's the only thing she knows. Yeah,
and Mrs. Kim, who was the one that answered the doorbell, when she heard that, she was like, so? What do you want? And she's like, oh, just... And then, as soon as that happened, the conflict starts. And it's kind of weird, because... Mrs. Kim was the one that let the housekeeper in. And that's what created the entire, probably one of the biggest conflicts of the movie. It's kind of weird to let, one parasite let the other one in. Honestly, if somebody rang my doorbell and said, hey, I used to live here, I left something, I would be like, where is it? I'll go get it. I would never let a person just go in and look under my bed and be like, oh, here is what I lost.
But I think that was also... This is where they really kind of jump between the lines of they're painting this imagery of the parasites and who is the parasite and who is the host, and that's what I thought was most interesting, because you actually resonate with the Kim family for the majority of the movie, right? You feel impassioned to their goals, their objectives, even though it kind of feels kind of like a cheating scheme and a little maybe unnecessary.
You want them to work it out.
You hoping that what they're doing is for the right reasons, good cause. And so when this person comes back, the housekeeper, who's very obviously hurt, you can see that their actions have had an effect. And so if they were to directly turn them away, you think, oh, the Kims are the bad people. And I think that the fact that they welcome it in, it's continuing this question of actions for the wrong reasons, actions for the right reasons, but have a negative effect. Are they bad people, or maybe actions for the wrong reasons, negative effects, but then they resolve them and they try to work to make them a little bit better? It's okay. And so the whole conflict is not just around the family's going to come home in 8 minutes at the end, but are the Kims good? Are they bad? Is the housekeeper good? Is she bad? I think right there, even that conflict, you don't know who's to root for.
That's true, because the all housekeeper... At the beginning, you thought she's just a good person. She's just a regular housekeeper. It's not until she comes back and shows that her husband lives in the basement that you were like, oh my gosh, this is not just a regular housekeeper who got fired for no reason. She was also doing her own sort of scheme.
Yes.
But here's a good question based on what you just said. Thinking you feel at first, or I guess for most of the movie, attracted to the Kims. if the Kims weren't the main family, if the Parks were the main family, the rich family was the main family that we focus on, would you think the Kims are villains? Or would you think they're just, or would you still have the same idea, the same conflict within you, like, they're just trying to survive?
For sure. If they were telling the story of the Parks, the owners of the house, and you get invested into the life of Mr. and Mrs. Park and what they're trying to do for their children, if you became invested in their life goals and in their hopes and in their dreams, then the Kims would very much seem like they're taking advantage of their niceties, of their naivete, of their sweetness, whatever you might want to draw it as. You know, there's a very obvious painting that the Parks are just kind, simple people, and there's a couple lines that maybe you question, like, oh, there's something weird about them, but generally they seem like they're non-confrontational. They're not hurting anyone. They're just trying to live their life. So if they told the story from the Parks and the Kims kind of came in as the side character, you'd definitely kind of be pushing them away and saying, what you're doing isn't right to the Parks. That's not fair. Because they brought us in from the side of the Parks, and you're meant to empathize with the Kims. Sorry, since they brought us in from the side of the Kims, the poor family who are now trying to find a way to survive, to thrive, to do more with their lives. You empathize with them. You think, okay, maybe not great actions, but maybe good moral cause. We empathize. We understand. Oh, look, they're trying to communicate with this housekeeper who they originally had sent out of the home, but now she's back trying to figure something out. So that's where you're conflicted even more. I think the conflict is made even more present because you're starting to wonder, but now they're at this verge of all the actions they have to do to continue their schemes could end up hurting a lot more people than it did originally. So I don't know. Yeah, it's really well done in that sense.
So up until that point in the movie, it was just about the Kims struggling, the Kims going in, the Kims fighting with the old housekeeper and her husband. And it was just about the Parasite conflict, the Parasite again. But at the end, becomes about this high, beautiful family that we've seen, the Parks.
Yeah.
It all comes crashing down because of the son's birthday party.
Destroyed.
Mr. Park, well, I guess all the Park, invited the entire Kim family for their son's birthday. It was supposed to be a nice birthday. They even paid them. And so Mr. Park and Mr. Kim, they dressed up as Indians because that's the son's birthday party theme. And as they're hiding in the bushes to like surprise the son, Mr. Park tells Mr. Kim, "You're getting paid for this. Don't complain about anything that could happen.
Consider this your work. Consider this work." Yeah.
He's like, "You're getting paid. You're getting overpaid, actually."
Yeah, because a little bit of context, if you haven't seen it already. At this point, they had just spent the evening. This is right after the big conflict where everything has come to culmination. They had just basically been partying up in the Parks house, and now the Parks say, "We're back in 8 minutes," and the housekeeper is there, and they're trying to figure everything out. Well, they eventually are able to hide. They had spent the night basically hiding and trying to avoid the Parks seeing them, finding them. They finally get out of the house, only to run back down the stairs, through the city, all the way back into their slum, the not so great parts of town, to their basement apartment, to find that this rain that has been falling, the rain is what prompted the Parks to come back early from their camping trip. The rain has been falling, it's been flooding the streets, it's been backing up sewage. So they come back to their house, which is now, neck high with water in all of the hallways.
Because they live in their basement.
Yep. Their toilet is literally spewing. When you
that was
straight
so
up,
nasty.
it was disgusting. But anyways, the whole house is basically destroyed. So they gather as much as they can. And this shows a scene of them taking their belongings, put them on a raft, kind of floating them to safety, to some sort of shelter. Yeah. So while the Parks family had just gotten back out of the rain from their long camping trip, and they're resting well in their beautiful home, the Kims have spent all night trying to avoid being seen. They've been scuttering around after the lights have been turned on. They have to go collect their things, and they end up sleeping in a gym packed full of people, all who have been washed out of their homes. So then in the morning, and this was right after the big conflict, right after they lost their home, the Parks are like, "Oh, it's a new day. Our son is having their birthday party. We want to celebrate. We're going to have everyone come over, just, spontaneous, super exciting. And it's a Sunday, but we'll call all of our house staff to come help us set up for this party." And so they call the art teacher and say, "Won't you come celebrate that song? Your student will love it." Then they call the father and Mr. Kim and say, "Well, we'll need you to help us drive and do errands. We'll pay you overtime, but and all this is happening while they're sitting in the gym in their own filth, and everyone's around them trading clothes, trying to, keep moving with their days. And the mother's called in was already in the house making food and prepping for the day, setting up tables." All at their own inconvenience because it's their job, it's their duty. So this tension is the stress they're already feeling because of losing their home is being pounded in and being stressed into them that you're just doing this for work. You're getting paid to do it. You have to do it. You have no choice.
Plus, gotta remember, they kind of schemed their way into the job. Mm-hmm. So the Park family, the rich family, has no idea that the Kims are indeed a family who are really poor and live in the basement. So it's not like when they got the call, they could have been, sorry, our house flooded. We can't make it today.
The Parks don't even know that the Kims are related. The whole thing, it's crazy how many strings they've webbed and weaved together. It's insane.
Yeah, so when they get the call, they can't be like, hey, not today, this happened. They have to keep playing. Mm-hmm. They have to be like, doesn't matter how low I am right now in my life, where all my belongings, which are few because they're poor, and my basement house is full of poop because the toilet exploded. They were like, yeah, I'll be there at the party because that's their job, because they don't want to get fired from that family because they need that family. And that honestly can mess up anybody mentally. Just knowing that I can't rely on myself, so anything you tell me, I'm going to do. Which at this point in the movie, it slowly progressed into Mr. Kim's mind, because every time they talk about him, they say how bad he smells. They don't really complain about any of the Kim family anymore throughout the movie, but constantly throughout the movie we get this little glimpses of, oh, Mr. Kim smells bad, Mr. Kim smells bad, Mr. Kim smells bad. So he's probably at the lowest of the low. And that's why he's the one that snaps out of all the Kim family.
Well, and I love the line that Mr. Park said that kind of started to define the tension, if you will. He says earlier on in the movie, he's like, I don't like people who cross the line. And he says to his wife when they get back from their camping trip, well, they're sitting on their beautiful couch, enjoying their time together. Their son's out in the teepee. And the whole Park family is literally hiding underneath their table. As they're sitting above them and talking, they say, Mr. Kim, he's such a great driver. He seems to always walk up to the line but never cross it. But there's one thing that always crosses the line, is that smell. It's his smell. It's that smell of the subway. People who ride the subway are the worst type of people. He and his wife banter back and forth, kind of talking about the smell. How has she not smelled this smell? It's like old radish. It's disgusting. And as they're talking, it moves down, and right underneath their conversation, where they're comfortable and, just fine and dandy, it pans down below the table, and you see Mr. Kim's face, just kind of stoic and cold.
Yeah, and you see Mr. Kim's daughter and his son. They're fine. They're comfortable with what they're saying. But Mr. Kim's the one that we focus on. And you can see he's kind of disappointed. Because throughout the movie, he said, oh, the parks are so nice. Stuff like that. And I think that was the first time we see that the parks are not all that nice. That they do have their own life. But Mr. Kim's literally just saying, dang, I disappointed them by just being who I am.
Well, and I think it was that it was not just the visual, but also the auditory flipping of the ideas. Because when they were above the couch, when they were sitting as a family drinking, enjoying, he says, I feel so comfortable, cozy, I belong here.
Yes.
He had this sense of, I'm equal to the parks. Look at us, we're surviving, we're enjoying ourselves, life is good. And then literally flipping that now they're not the ones sitting on the couch. They are laying underneath the table, hiding, so that they're not found by the parks. And the parks are the ones who are sitting in comfort. And he's reminded, oh, maybe I'm not as equal as I thought.
That single comment said, guess what? You do not belong.
Yes.
This is not your place. Your place is back in your old dirty basement.
And I think that's what's beautiful about the whole movie is it starts under this idea like we're going to create this grand beautiful fantasy. We'll kind of we'll start gathering money, we'll get a better home, like we'll be able to work our way up the system. And I think Mr. Kim is the one who starts to fall most into that fantasy and say, oh, I am a high and proper part of society. I'm a driver of a rich man. I'm living a beautiful, wonderful life. My family and I, we're gathered around the table. We're drinking. We're enjoying ourselves. We have a future. And then it's that idea that creeps into his head. And then suddenly this dream and fantasy he'd started falling into is ravaged by that one comment, that one idea, the smell, who he actually is. Because the smell, we talked about this earlier, the boy who's kind of weird. This kid runs around and one day he smells each of the individual members of the Kim family, and
he says they all smell the same.
Yeah, and he says they smell the same. And then they go back to their house and they're like, we have to use different laundry detergent. We have to wash different loads.
Different soaps. Maybe we should move out.
Maybe we should move out of the basement. It's a basement smell. It's where we live. It's our being that smells like this. It's not our soaps. It's not our shampoos. It's not the things we do. It's where they live. And so then it starts, that smell becomes the piece throughout that says, you are different than us. It's the thing that really marks the dichotomy between their lives and their livelihood.
Like keep poking the bear.
Oh yeah.
just hey,
oof,
you're low. Hey, you're low. So every
yes.
time Mr. Kim feels normal, like high society, gets poked.
Yes.
He gets poked.
Yep.
He gets poked. Like when they were gonna go run errands, Mrs. Park is on the back of the car.
Yep. And this is what reinforced the smell comment that he made, because she hadn't recognized it before. The next day, when she calls him up to run errands, she's in the car.
She just rolls down the window and takes like a whiff of fresh air. And Mr. Kim, who's driving, he just looks back and says,
yeah,
again, a poke. Like,
yeah,
I get it.
He's already looking miserable. You could see it in his face, and she doesn't seem to pay it any mind. You know, like they're in the grocery store, and he is tired. He's ragged. His hair is not. He's not wearing a suit. In previous shots, when he drives,
he always tried to be the best.
Yeah, look the best.
Himself.
Now he has a button-up shirt that's kind of wrinkly. You know, not all the way buttoned, and he's tired. His face is exhausted, and it starts with just a sniff and a face, and he sees it in the back window, and then she puts her finger up to her nose, and it's just the reinforcing the idea: you're lower than us. You're lower than us. You're lower than us.
By the way, I don't know the name of the actor, but whoever played Mr. Kim, great job of having those high moments, having those low moments, and just the way he progressed from high, low throughout the entire film. I thought it was very natural, very incredible performance. I wish I knew the name of the actor, but I don't. And then, so they're at the party, they're about to be Indians, and then the husband of the housekeeper, he flips out.
Well, I mean, it starts before that because Kevin, whatever his actual name is, I don't recall. Kevin, the tutor who was hired, now in a love relationship with the daughter of the park. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
He asks her, do I belong here? Now he's starting to question, you know, like he had kind of slipped in, they had lived into this fantasy, but after last night, after they lost their home, after they were reinforced into this idea that you are lower than the parks, he asks her and says, do I belong here? And she's like, yeah.
That's true. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. So, and of course he's like, doesn't believe her because she's just a kid. And so I don't know. See, this is where I was so confused. And I don't know if The Rock came up earlier in the movie before I was there. I just saw it when he went out to bash the public urinator.
Yeah, no, the movie was just this rock
There's
that's presented to a Kim family as a gift.
Okay, I missed that. So I need to go back and watch the beginning.
And the rock,
the rock is another
it's said
theme.
to symbolize wealth.
Oh, wow. I missed a whole important motif here. Okay, the rock. Keep going.
So they gave the rock to a Kim family, and they say this rock is given to people, and whoever has it in their home symbolizes wealth. And then the very next day is when Kevin gets hired as an English teacher. And
I missed that whole thing.
And throughout the movie, Kevin seems very attached to this rock. Like you see him carrying it every time he's like gonna do something. When he sleeps, when they lose their house because of the rain, the one thing he sleeps with is the rock. He takes it to the shelter to sleep with it. And then he goes back to the home of the Parks, and he's going to go down to the basement because he has to check on the housekeeper.
Well, he's carrying the rock.
Yeah.
And you kind of know what he's going to do with the rock based off of how he's holding himself. He's probably going to... The housekeeper and his wife, if they're not already dead. I presumed at least.
I didn't think that. I thought
You never did?
I thought he was just carrying it because he kept saying, "This rock just keeps finding me."
Yeah, no, because he said to his student, he's like, I have to go down below the party, and I have to do. I can't remember the line he said, but he said he had to do something. And I'm like, well, previously when he had grabbed the rock, he had used it to whack a guy who had been urinating out of their kitchen window, back in their home in the slums, and so I just presumed this wonderful gift, this rock, was becoming a vehicle for removing that, which was not welcome. And in my mind, that was the other parasites in the house.
Which, good thing you said that. Like, oh my god, good thing you said that it was removed to remove the parasites.
Yeah.
Because he's going down to the basement. He drops the stone, the rock.
Yeah.
All the way down. He doesn't actually get to grab it because the husband of the housekeeper pops in and he grabs it, and then he uses that same rock to bash Kevin's head.
Yeah.
So just like Kevin, he used the rock to banish the parasite.
Yeah. Well, and now this is just a completely different connection, but for those people that want to watch it and look for all the connections, here's another one. So the housekeeper, right, and her husband have lived in the house this entire time. And because this is all revolving around Da Sung's birthday, it's kind of unique because one of the repeating themes is that Da Sung, the boy artist, the creative, eccentric mind, he had a traumatic experience in first grade, and that was that he saw a ghost. And the ghost, of course, you find out later, spoiler alert again, is actually the housekeeper's husband, who had come up in the night to get food. But it traumatized Da Sung. It caused a convulsion. He was a seizure, and it was hugely traumatic, and it's kind of this running theme that like Da Sung is disturbed, all these other things. But then the mother, Mrs. Park, says, but we always heard that having a ghost in the house would bring us luck. And so the fact now that the secondary parasitic family is bringing their rock, which is supposed to bring wealth, and going to destroy the other parasite or ghost that theoretically was bringing wealth to the host family, to the Parks. I find that interesting now too. What does it mean? I have no idea, but there's so many layers. It's so good, and it's perfectly weaved together.
Honestly, it's impressive how much they build on a single movie.
Yeah, but we were at the birthday party where a housekeeper's husband was going to pop off. You're going to talk about that, I think.
Because part of the thing that I found interesting is that, well, again, the housekeeper's husband, sorry, we don't know the name. We just watched the movie yesterday. He bashed Kevin's head with a rock. Yeah. Then he goes upstairs, he grabs a knife from the kitchen, goes out to the party, and kills the daughter of Mr. Kim, another parasite. And then when Mr. Park says, what's going on? The husband of the housekeeper says, hello, Mr. Park. Thank you for everything. And Mr. Park goes, you know me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting because the husband of the housekeeper has literally devoted every day of his life to make Mr. Park comfortable with the lights going up the stairs. He thanks him every day. He basically prays to the man.
Yeah. Yep.
And Mr. Park's like, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
You mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
Even though, again, he's been fed by this person.
Yeah.
So Mr. Park's like, I don't know you. And he just lies on the floor. He doesn't question it. He doesn't argue with him. He just accepts the fact that he was nothing for a second there.
Yeah.
So there's that perspective, like not doing nothing against Mr. Park. And that's also when Mr. Kim flips out. He comes out of the bushes. He's in shock that everything's happened. His daughter just got stabbed.
Yep.
And he's trying to save her.
Because Mrs. Kim starts fighting the psycho housekeeper. Yeah. Like, so she's keeping him busy for a moment. And so Mr. Kim is helping his daughter, trying to stop the bleeding. Yeah. This is a chaotic moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's
and
insane.
that song, because he saw somebody get stabbed, he kind of goes into a seizure again. So they're trying to rush him to a hospital. Yep. But again, Mr. Kim's the driver, so he has the keys to the car. Yep. So he's trying to save his daughter, and Mr. Park says, give me the keys, we gotta go. Let's go, right now, let's go. He doesn't care anything about what's happening to Mr. Kim's daughter. Again, they technically didn't know it was their daughter. Yeah. But still, he doesn't care about the life that Mr. Kim's trying to save right now. He's like, my kid's here. Let's go. Toss me the keys right now. What are you doing? He's literally yelling at him like, Stop doing whatever it is you're doing. I don't care about that life
Yeah.
you're saving.
Yeah.
Come save the one I care about. That's when Mr. Kim realizes this man that I've kind of, at the beginning, I was thanking for him for being so nice. He's treating me like I'm absolute garbage the entire time.
I would argue this isn't the exact moment he's realizing it. I think the threads are being weaved together because he still throws the keys. Well, no, because he still throws the keys, and I think it's when he snaps because he's still helping his daughter. He throws the keys, and then you remember, this is again the theme of the smell. Mr. Park comes because the housekeeper's husband got stabbed by a skewer, has fallen on the ground. As he's falling is when Mr. Kim throws the keys, and the keys fall underneath him. And Mr. Park goes up to the fallen, killed housekeeper housekeeper's husband who just thanked him, and he has this face, this smell, and he covers his nose and picks up this dead body to grab the keys so that he can go leave and help his. And that's, I think,
that's when Mr. Park gets up.
That's when he goes crazy.
He grabs a knife himself and kills Mr. Park.
Yes.
Which is, in a way of seeing it, you could see it as the parasite. He just killed the freaking host. But again, I don't see the Kim family as a parasite. But I'm just saying, if you did view the movie that way, which is a totally fair way of seeing the movie, you could see that moment is the parasite killing the host. Now that conflict's set.
Oh my gosh, so many conflicts.
The ending of the movie.
Oh my goodness.
So Mr. Kim, he goes and hides in the basement of the house after stabbing Mr. Park.
Yeah.
The Park family had no clue that this basement existed.
Yep.
So there's no way anybody
Only the Kims know, because now both the housekeeper and her husband are dead.
Yeah.
The old owner didn't tell anyone.
Yeah. So Mr. Kim is hiding. There's no way anybody can find him.
Yeah.
But using the lights that the housekeeper's husband used every night to let Mr. Park into the house, uses Morse code, which it's a whole different theme part of the movie. But I guess we're just gonna skip that. You just have to watch the movie. So he uses Morse code to tell his son, who's apparently just been watching the house many nights because he misses the house again, because all the people who have left that house miss the house because parasites want to go back into the host.
Yes.
So he's looking at the house, contemplating it, and he starts seeing the light flicker. And then he discovers that his dad uses Morse code, so he deducts it, and basically the dad's saying, I know what I did, seems like a dream. He doesn't really apologize for it, he doesn't feel sorry, he just says, wow, this is what happened, it was crazy. And then he says, I'm living here in the basement, there's a nice family that kind of moved in for a while. They're kind of nice, but apparently nobody's buying that house because it's kind of hard to buy a house with a murder.
Yes.
So he's saying, yeah, I'm being fed once in a while, but people that kind of move in, rent the house for a while, and then they leave. And he's like, I hope that one day I get to see you guys again, but I'll just be living here in the basement for now.
Yeah.
And then the son writes a letter that...
I don't know how it even got there.
Yeah.
This is the questioning. Like, did it actually get sent or not?
So here's something huge. So the son starts writing his own letter, and this is narration, so we don't know if he's writing on Morse code or an actual letter. And he says, hey, Dad, don't worry. I have a plan. I'm going to make a crap ton of money. I don't care about college, education, or having my own family right now. All I care about is grabbing a crap ton of money. I'm going to buy the house.
Yes.
And then we start seeing him actually buying the house.
Yeah.
So that one day, me and Mom are going to be in the lawn because it's the most beautiful place in the house.
It's where the light comes in.
Yeah. And then you're going to come up from the basement and you're going to see us and it's all going to be happy again.
Yeah.
And then we see the dad hugging the son.
Yes.
Which, if that moment, at that moment the movie faded into black, credits roll, it would have been like,
beautiful.
I guess a happy moment, I guess a good ending.
Yeah.
And you said, yes, he did it. He bought the house. He saved his dad. But then, that's not what happened at all. What happened was, yes, they said all that. Like, he's writing the letter. He hugs his dad. His dad's hugging him. And then they snap back at him writing the letter.
Yeah.
He looks up at the camera. Well, maybe not the camera, but he just looks up.
Yeah.
And then the movie fades.
Yeah.
Which leaves you the question, did he buy the house? Did he accomplish what he's writing to his dad?
Yeah.
Did he not accomplish what he's writing to his dad?
This is where my big brain kicked in because
Big brain time.
The second that I started feeling like the Kims were meant to represent the parasite, I'm like, I am uncomfortable with this idea because I am empathetic to the Kims and their efforts to move up the social. And I mean, this is maybe just too presumptuous. But no, I think it's a fair conclusion to make. I'm pretty sure the whole movie is meant to be a commentary to some extent on social class for sure. And so the fact that they tell the story from the Kims, you see a lower income family whose goal and what they're hoping to do is move up in the world, to, you know, have comfort, to enjoy, to feel cozy, to feel at home, to be free of some of the stresses and, you know, not have to fight off a public urinator, you know, during the middle of their evening dinner because someone's peeing outside their kitchen window in the middle of the night. You know, they want to feel comfortable. And that's, so the reason that you feel empathetic to the Kims is because you see what they're doing is for their own comfort, their own sense of establishment.
And they're not technically doing, like, the son's not doing it for himself, Mr. Kim's not
they're
for
doing
himself,
it for each other.
for a family.
Yeah. So then they become, it's weird that they start to draw that line of, wait, are they parasites? Are they sucking the life and energy out of the Parks family? Should we not like them? And that's what I think the housekeeper and his wife are meant to represent, is that they have kind of settled into, we are parasites and we live off this host and we need to be here to be alive.
Yeah, they even said at one point in the movie, like, we're happy being here.
Yes.
I don't want to go outside.
No.
I can carry up the love that we have for each other, but we're fine living the way we are right now.
Yeah, and you can see the concern and almost disgust in the Kim's face because they don't want to believe that they are parasites. And I think that's where, like I said, the conflicts of, are they good? Are they bad? Are they parasites? Are they not? And so you see Mr. Kim snap because I think he doesn't want to believe that he's a parasite. And yet, this is what's so powerful, I think, about the letter he writes, is because he says, every night I come up, I risk my life, but it's the only thing I can do. I can only just live in the basement of this house. He's almost settled and started to believe that he is the parasite. It's all he can do. So now you're empathetic to Mr. Kim. Even though he killed someone, you're still empathetic to Mr. Kim.
And again, he never apologized for the kill.
No. But he's been subjected to this position because of just all the things that happened. And certainly you can push back and debate with that. But now he's stuck and he is a parasite and there's nothing he can do about it. And this is what I thought was the most beautiful moment and why I appreciated how they end it. Because if they had resolved it and he walks up and everything's fine, then you realize, oh, everything's okay and all right in the world. But the problem is everything is not okay and all right in the world. And this is where I felt the most comfort in the movie being titled Parasite. Because you want to believe that the Kims are the parasites, and yet you see what the conclusion you want for them, the conclusion you want for Kevin, or whatever his name is, to gain money, to buy the house, for his father to just freely be able to walk up the stairs and be welcomed back into their family, to feel comfort again, is unlikely. It's probably not going to happen. There's no way for him, because when the movie started, the way that Kim family made money was picking up pizza boxes. Yes.
And they did a terrible job at it. So somebody has no real education. They even established early in the movie, you weren't there for that, but they said Kevin fails like all entrance exams to universities.
Oof.
So the fact that they mentioned how bad he does at a job, how bad he would do at college, and then Kevin's like, I'm going to make a crap ton of money. There's actually no reasonable
way for that to happen.
No. Yeah. You would be like, at least by the rules established in the movie, there's no way for Kevin to actually come out and be able to be successful enough to buy a house.
$1 billion, well, it's probably a couple million, but
yeah,
no way that he could go and buy this $5 million beautiful home where his father is now stuck as a parasite. Like, it's just, it's not going to happen.
It's kind of sad too that the movie gives you that idea of like, it's not possible. But again, it's not possible not because they don't want to, but because society is planting these rules in front of you. It's not something, you're not your own obstacle. You could want it as much as you want. You could work as hard as you want at it. But society is the one that's going to keep you down. And I thought that was mind-blowing in the movie. Because, like, you see Disney movies, they're like, believe in yourself, and then you achieve it, and then you gain love, and then you can live in a castle. Which is all fine and dandy. But this movie is saying, in a perfect world,
Yes.
that would be perfect.
Yes.
But this world established in the movie, which
Yes.
resembles our world,
Yeah.
is not possible.
I mean, in that sense, we had two perfect Disney endings. One, when they're sitting around the couch drinking, they're like, everything's fine, we feel
Yes.
cozy. End. Perfect Disney movie. Second ending, right after they hug in the light, our father has been redeemed. End. Perfect ending of the movie. But no. They add that one extra clip.
That 5-second clip that changed the
this
entire
is
ending.
not how it is right now.
Yeah.
And this is what's so important, because you feel the Kim's desires to be reunited, to be at home, to have security. Because it even mentions like they were put on probation, or whatever they didn't end up in prison, so they did their due diligence. This is the mother and the son, so the ones that didn't kill Mr. Park, which obviously they talk about how they go and they're trying to find Mr. Park, but no one knows where he's at. And so even in that sense, you're starting to question, like, is he a good or bad guy? Irrelevant, because it's not the question of morality. Obviously, he killed someone, he should go to jail for that, or at least spend some time doing service of some sort. But it's that idea that we still want there to be redemption. We still want the family to be reunited, to be comfortable, to be in the beautiful home with the sun shining down on their little back porch, that little grassy area with green all around it, nature, as things should be. Like, they want to return to as things should be, and they probably won't be able to. Not just because of the things Mr. Kim did, but because Kevin can't get into schools, they're not going to make much money, they're in a system where they had to go to extreme lengths just to become servants in this household, and they were still subjected to being subservient to this family. Even if they were making more income, probably wouldn't ever have been to the extent that they could buy this multi-million-dollar home to redeem his father.
The director of the movie, I looked up this right before this video. The director of the movie, if I butcher this name, my bad, Bong Joon-ho. By the way, great work on the movie. But he said, "This is a comedy without clowns.
Oof.
This is a tragedy without any villains."
Comedy without clowns. I laughed a lot. I really did.
Oh, the movie was hilarious. Yeah, hilarious
so good.
parts.
So good. But a tragedy without villains. Because you're mourning so many losses, but you can't peg that loss to any one person. Like, you could maybe say, oh, it was the housekeeper's fault that they were caught not ready for when the Parks returned. You could blame the Parks and say, oh, it was their fault for calling on the Kims when they were not doing great after they lost their home. You could blame the Kims for doing this all in the first place. But as I said, they perfectly dance the line of all these actions, although there's obviously some that fall on the morally bad side. All these actions are kind of questionable, and like a lot of them are for good reason, and so you can't blame anyone that it's happening and that all these losses are happening. You can only just feel the loss. I wonder who did this, who's to blame. And
like, they did have a choice to make the actions they made.
Yeah.
But if we track it all back, they would do it all again.
Yeah.
Because again, who would want to be stuck in a basement, hungry, smelling bad? The choice was made for them to do whatever it took to get out of there, to climb out.
Well, and that's what everyone is expected to do. I think that's that's what everyone presumes is our duty.
Yeah, you would do anything for your family, not even just alone yourself, but the people you love. You're gonna try to provide for them. So it's kind of weird how they technically had moral choices along the way, but the choice was kind of already made for them.
Yes. But I love it too, because you can't be mad at the Parks or there's obviously things they say that you want to be mad at them, but when it comes down to it, they're all generally harmless people that are just living their lives.
They're human.
Yeah,
that's all you can say. They're just human.
Wait, what? They're human? I thought this was a bunch of parasites. Oh wait, that's where the giant conflict.
All human beings.
Yes.
No matter how low you are, no matter how high you are. No matter who you come in contact with, why are the reasons you come in contact with people, everybody's still people. Don't push anybody down. And if anything, try to lift people up.
Yeah.
That's Parasite. Any final comments that you have?
I wish I had cried, because the music was so good and moving. And this is something I love too. You know, movies will always have the dilemma. Do we write this beautiful soundtrack? Do we use contemporary modern music? Do we pick up old songs? And for me, usually I would say in a movie like this, the fallback would be, we're going to choose a bunch of like classical songs that might be referential. They have a sense of like oh yeah, this is a sort of funeral theme. This is a sort of celebration. But they had just the perfectly composed and orchestrated music that just kept a sense of just normal living, up class living, and so their soundscape. I'll just say the soundscape. The soundscape was beautiful. The moments of silence, perfect. The moments of intense orchestral music, incredible. I loved it all.
I agree with that because I think sometimes movie push for having music the entire time.
Yeah.
But this movie knew when to shut up.
Yes, there was a couple silent moments that stuck out to me. I was like,
yeah,
lovely. I love it. So good.
I think it was significant that it won the Academy Award for Best Movie. It also won for Best Writing because it was an all-Korean film. And I think it was like the second time in history that it had happened for a movie to not be American or a British movie to win the Academy Award. The first one was The Artist, which is a French film. So I thought it was huge because an American film, going off the music, an American film, you can research this, they always try to push for music the entire time because they say American audiences feel uncomfortable with silence. But
Studio Ghibli is a great example of that because when they brought Spirited Away to America, they really didn't want any silence. And they wanted to fill every moment with music or with something. And if you watch the two different films, you see it. It's completely different that if you watch the dubbed versions versus the subbed versions versus the American dubbed ones, that the music is significantly different. It's more present in the American versions because we are not prepared for silence.
We're not prepared for silence.
We're not prepared for a lack of constant stimulation.
I'm glad the movie got the credit it deserved. Maybe we'll push for more foreign films to be brought to American mainstream cinemas.
Yeah.
And Parasite, if I have to give it a score right now, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
I am not artsy when it comes to movies. Incredible 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. All right, there you go. Parasite, 10 out of 10. Go check it out. It's on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, go check it out. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.